Today we are going to study civil disobedience movement. Civil disobedience movement was started by Gandhiji after non-cooperation movement. In this slide, we are going to see and visualize and discuss the situations and circumstances which led to initiate SALT movement or civil disobedience movement. In Feb 1922, Gandhi withdrew the non-cooperation movement. He felt that satyagrahis were not properly trained and hence turned violent in many places. क्योंकि जो नॉन कॉपरेशन मूवमेंट के सत्याग्रहीज थे वो चौरी चौरा इंसिडेंट के दौरान काफ़ी वायलेंट हो गए थे और उन्होंने चौरी चौरा के पुलिस स्टेशन में आग लगा दी थी। इसलिए गांधी जी का मानना था कि अभी इंडियंस जो हैं अहिंसा का पाठ अभी पढ़ नहीं पाए हैं। Within the Congress, some leaders were not happy with the policies of Mahatma Gandhi. They wanted to participate in council elections, and for this purpose, C.R. Das and Motilal Nehru formed Swaraj Party within the Congress to argue for a return to council politics. In such a situation, two factors shaped the Indian politics in 1920s. There was a worldwide economic depression and it affected India also. In 1930s, demand for agricultural goods fell and exports declined. Peasants found it difficult to sell their harvest and pay their revenue. By 1930, the countryside was in turmoil. And in Britain, there was a new government that is known as Tory government. Tory government constituted a statutory commission which is known as Simon Commission because it was headed by Sir John Commission. But it contained no Indian members. This commission was known as Simon Commission. Simon Commission was coming to India to judge the capabilities of Indians, whether they are able to govern India within direction of British government. I mean to say, टोरी गवर्नमेंट ने एक कमीशन बनाया जिसे साइमन कमीशन कहते हैं क्योंकि इसके अध्यक्ष सर जॉन कमीशन थे, लेकिन इसमें कोई भी इंडियंस नहीं थे और ये कमीशन इंडियंस की कैपेबिलिटी या उनकी योग्यता की जांच करने आ रहे थे, जिससे कि इंडियंस को के कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में कुछ परिवर्तन करके उन्हें शासन में भागीदारी दी जाए। लेकिन इंडियंस इससे खुश नहीं थे. They were not happy because there were no Indian in Simon Commission. That is why when Simon Commission arrived in India in 1928, it was greeted with the slogan, "Go back, Simon." All the major Indian parties had took part in the demonstration in an effort to win them over. Viceroy Irwin announced in October 1929 a vague offer of dominion status for India in an unspecified future, and he organized a roundtable conference in London to discuss a future constitution of India. 1928 में साइमन कमीशन आया, उसका भारत में भारी विरोध हुआ. Even then, Viceroy Irwin announced dominion status for India in an unspecified future, and he organized a roundtable conference. अब इस राउंड टेबल कॉन्फ्रेंस में सभी पॉलिटिकल लीडर्स को इनवाइट किया गया कि वो शामिल हों. तो राउंड टेबल कॉन्फ्रेंस किस बेस पर ऑर्गेनाइज हुआ? राउंड टेबल कॉन्फ्रेंस साइमन कमीशन की रिपोर्ट के बेस पर ऑर्गेनाइज हुआ. और इस राउंड टेबल कॉन्फ्रेंस में इंडिया का फ्यूचर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन फ्रेम होना था। दूसरा, इस फ्यूचर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में एक ऑफर था कि इंडिया को डोमिनियन स्टेटस यानी कि ब्रिटेन के अधीन रहकर शासन करने का अधिकार दिया जाएगा। But Congress leaders were not satisfied. In December 1929, in Lahore, in Congress session, under the presidency of Jawaharlal Nehru, Congress formalized the demand of Purna Swaraj or complete independence. बच्चों आप याद रखिएगा कि नॉन कॉपरेशन मूवमेंट जो है वो सिर्फ स्वराज या डोमिनियन स्टेटस के लिए मांगा गया था या उसकी डिमांड की गई थी। लेकिन 1930 में लाहौर के सेशन में कांग्रेस ने फॉर द फर्स्ट टाइम कंप्लीट स्वराज या कंप्लीट इंडिपेंडेंस या फुल इंडिपेंडेंस की डिमांड की। इसका अर्थ था कि अब भारत किसी भी हालत में किसी भी विदेशी शक्ति के अधीन रह के शासन नहीं करेगा और उसे अपने देश में अपना शासन चाहिए। इसका अर्थ है कि अब ब्रिटिशर्स को भारत से जाना चाहिए। In Lahore session, it was decided that 26 January 1930 would be celebrated as Independence Day, when people were to take a pledge to struggle for complete independence. This attracted little attention, so Mahatma Gandhi decided to relate the idea of freedom to more concrete issues of everyday life so that common masses can also connect with the mass national movement. गांधी जी ने जो 26 जनवरी 1930 को स्वतंत्रता दिवस मनाया गया तो उसमें उन्होंने ये देखा कि बहुत सारे लोग इसमें जुड़ नहीं पाए थे। तो गांधी जी ने ये सोचा कि एक मास मूवमेंट या जन आंदोलन चलाया जाए और उसका इश्यूज ऐसे रखे जाएं, उसके मुद्दे ऐसे रखे जाएं जिससे कि बहुत सारे लोग इसके साथ जुड़ सकें। Therefore, Gandhiji wrote a letter to Viceroy on 31st January 1930 stating demands that of some of the general interest and some of a specific interest. The most इम्पॉर्टेंट डिमांड वॉज अबॉलिशिंग सॉल्ट टैक्स। सॉल्ट के ऊपर बहुत ज़्यादा टैक्स लगा दिया था और सॉल्ट एक ऐसा इशू था जिसे सभी लोग यूज़ करते थे तो और जिसके द्वारा भारत के सभी लोगों को इस मास मूवमेंट के द्वारा जोड़ा जा सकता है। दैट इज़ वाई in his letter, Gandhiji stated that if the demand weren't completed by 11th March, the Congress would launch a civil disobedience movement. But even the Viceroy did not negotiate it. So Mahatma Gandhi started his famous Salt March accompanied by 78 trusted volunteers. The march was over 240 miles. Imagine, 240 miles थी. From Gandhiji's ashram, that is from Sabarmati ashram, to the coastal area of Dandi. The volunteers walked for 24 days, about 10 miles in a day. Salt was something that was consumed by rich and poor alike, and it was most essential items of food. The tax on salt and the government's monopoly over its production. Mahatma Gandhi declared the most oppressive phase of British rule that salt is an essential item and it is a natural item and government has no right to put tax on it. That is why Gandhi declared that it is an oppressive phase of British rule. Oppressive मतलब अत्याचारी उनका ये चेहरा है और ये अच्छी सरकार नहीं है. So this movement attracted people in large numbers. Thousands came to hear Mahatma Gandhi wherever he stopped. He told them what he meant by Swaraj and urged them to peacefully defy the British. On 6th April, he reached Dandi and he violated law and manufactured salt by boiling seawater. Dandi March marked the beginning of civil disobedience movement. The civil disobedience movement was different from non-cooperation movement. In non-cooperation movement, people were asked to refuse cooperation with British, as the name was non-cooperation movement. But in civil disobedience movement, people refused to cooperate with British government as well as they broke rules also. As the movement spread, foreign clothes foreign cloth was boycotted and liquor shops were picketed. Peasants refused to pay revenue and chowkidari taxes. Village officials resigned in many places. Forest people violated forest laws, going into reserved forest to collect wood and graze cattle. Worried by development, the colonial government began arresting Congress leaders one by one. There were some violent clashes also. Abdul Ghaffar Khan, who was a devout disciple of Mahatma Gandhi, was arrested in April 1930. Angry crowd demonstrated in the streets of Peshawar, facing armed cars and police firing. Many were killed. A month later, when Mahatma Gandhi himself was arrested, industrial workers in Sholapur attacked police posts, municipal buildings, law courts, railway stations, all structures that symbolized ब्रिटिश रूल. यानी ब्रिटिश रूल से संबंधित जितने भी स्ट्रक्चर थे, जितनी भी वस्तुएं थी, उन सभी के ऊपर जो है लोगों ने अटैक किया और उनको डिफाई किया, यानी उसका विरोध किया. अब फ्राइटेंड गवर्नमेंट, अब भारत जो विदेशी सरकार थी भारत में, यानी ब्रिटिश भारत की सरकार, वो काफ़ी डर गई और उन्होंने सत्याग्रहीज को बहुत ही ब्रूटली रिप्रेस किया. A frightened government responded with a policy of brutal repression. Peaceful satyagrahis were attacked and women and children were beaten and many people were arrested. In such a situation, Gandhiji once again called off the civil disobedience movement and he entered into a pact with Irwin on 5th March 1931 and consented means apni razamandi de di, to participate in second roundtable conference in London, and the government agreed to release the political prisoners. यानी गांधी इरविन पैक्ट हुआ एंड इसके अकॉर्डिंगली जितने भी पॉलिटिकल प्रिजनर्स थे उनको जेल से रिहा कर दिया गया और कांग्रेस की तरफ से गांधी जी सेकेंड राउंड टेबल कॉन्फ्रेंस में भाग लेने गए, लेकिन ये राउंड टेबल कॉन्फ्रेंस सक्सेसफुल नहीं हुई. तो गांधी जी जब वापस आए तो उन्होंने फिर से सिविल डिसोबीडियंस मूवमेंट को स्टार्ट किया. तो इस तरीके से सिविल डिसोबीडियंस के मूवमेंट के दो फेजेस हैं, फर्स्ट फेज and second phase. Second phase started after second roundtable conference. In December 1937, Gandhi went to London for the conference but returned disappointed as negotiations broke down. In India, government began a new cycle of repression. Abdul Ghaffar Khan, Nehru were both jailed and Congress had been declared illegal, and a series of measures have been imposed to prevent meetings, demonstrations, boycotts. With great apprehensions, Mahatma Gandhi relaunched civil disobedience movement, but it had clearly lost its momentum. यानी ये उतनी तेजी से दोबारा विकसित नहीं हुआ. ठीक है, तो लेट अस सी कि ये मोमेंटम क्यों नहीं गेन कर पाया, तो या ये उतना प्रभावशाली सेकेंड फेज में ये मूवमेंट क्यों नहीं हुआ. क्योंकि जितने रिच पीजेंट्स थे उन्हें ये लग रहा था कि जब वो स्वराज्य के लिए फाइट कर रहे हैं अगेंस्ट हाई रेवेन्यू, तो उन्हें इसमें कुछ रिलीफ मिलेगी। लेकिन जब 1932 में दोबारा ये मूवमेंट स्टार्ट हुआ तो रेवेन्यू में कोई भी कमी नहीं हुई। गवर्नमेंट उतनी हाई रेवेन्यू रिच पीजेंट्स से ले रही थी, इसलिए रिच पीजेंट्स ने इसमें पार्टिसिपेट करना नहीं चाहा। लेट अस रीड इट. Rich peasant communities, being producers of commercial crops, were very hard hit by trade depression and falling prices and found it impossible to pay the government's revenue demand. The refusal of government to reduce the revenue demand led to the widespread resentment in rich peasants. Therefore, rich peasants enthusiastically participated in the first phase of civil disobedience movement and organized communities, and at times forcing reluctant members to participate in the boycott program. So rich peasants participated for for Swaraj against high revenue. But they were deeply disappointed when the movement was called off in 1931. That is why, when this movement was restarted in 1932, I mean to say the second phase of civil disobedience movement, many rich peasants refused to participate in this movement. Now let us talk about the poor peasantry. Many of peasants had very small lands, and they were working on rented piece of land that had been rented by landlords. As the depression continued, cash incomes dwindled. The small tenants or the farmers found it difficult to pay their rent. They wanted the unpaid rent to the landlord to be remitted. They joined a variety of radical movements, often led by socialists and communists, apprehensive of raising issues that might upset rich peasants and landlords. Congress was unwilling to support no rent campaigns of small tenants or peasants or farmers. Therefore, relationship between Congress and poor peasants was quite uncertain, and poor peasants were unwilling, or they were not willing to participate in civil disobedience movement. Now let us take up business class. In the first phase of civil disobedience movement, business class enthusiastically participated in the mass movement or in civil disobedience movement. They means the business class wanted protection against imports of foreign goods and a rupee sterling foreign exchange ratio that would discourage imports. To organize business interests, they formed Indian Industrial and Commercial Congress in 1920s. The Federation of the Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industries, that is FICCI, in 1927. They also attacked colonial control over Indian economy and supported civil disobedience when it was first launched in 1931. They gave financial assistance and refused to buy or sell foreign goods. Most businessmen came to see Swaraj as a time when colonial restrictions on business would no longer exist and trade and industry would flourish without constraints. बिजनेस क्लास को लगता था कि अगर इंडिया में स्वराज आ जाएगा तो जो ये कॉलोनियल गवर्नमेंट के ब्रिटिश शासन के जो बिजनेस पर रिस्ट्रिक्शंस हैं वो नहीं रहेंगे और उन्हें विकसित होने का, डेवलप होने का, फ्लरिश होने का मौका मिलेगा. But after the failure of the second roundtable conference, they were very apprehensive of the spread of the militant activities and they were worried about prolonged disruption of business as well as of the growing influence of socialism among the younger member of the Congress. That is why they were not willing to participate. They means the business class. They were not willing to participate in the second phase of civil disobedience movement. Now let us take up the working class. Only in Nagpur region there was active participation of the working class in the movement. They organized movements against low wages and poor working conditions. There were strikes by the railway and dock workers, but the congressmen were reluctant to include workers' demand as a part of program of struggle. It felt that it would alienate industrialists and divide anti-imperial forces. वर्किंग क्लास की डिमांड को बहुत सारे कांग्रेस के मेंबर्स नहीं शामिल करना चाहते थे क्योंकि उन्हें लगता था कि इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट उनसे नाराज़ हो जाएंगे. Let us discuss the limits of civil disobedience movement. Not all social groups were moved by the abstract concept of Swaraj, and these groups who did not participate in this movement were Dalits and the Muslims. Dalits were known as untouchables. For long, Congress has ignored the Dalits for fear of offending the conservative, high caste Hindus. But Mahatma Gandhi declared that Swaraj was impossible if untouchability wasn't eliminated. He called Dalits or the untouchables as the children of God. He organized satyagrahas to secure their entry into temples and access to public wells, tanks, roads, schools, etc. to gain popularity among them and drag them into movement. But many Dalit leaders were keen on a different political solution to the problem of the community. They began organizing themselves and placing their demands. Therefore, Dalit participation in the movement was limited, particularly in Maharashtra and Nagpur region. Now, the Muslims. After the decline of non-cooperation and Khilafat movement, a large section of Muslims felt alienated from the Congress. Gradually, each community organized religious processions with militant fervor, provoking Hindu-Muslim communal clashes and riots in many cities. Every riot deepened the distance between the two communities, that is Hindu and Muslim. The forged unity, Muhammad Ali Jinnah was willing to give up the demand for separate electorates if Muslims were assured reserved seats in Central Assembly and representation in proportion to population in the Muslim-dominated provinces. With all hope of resolving the issue disappeared when M.R. Jaikar of the Hindu Mahasabha strongly opposed the efforts at compromise at all parties conference in 1928. When the civil disobedience movement started, there was thus an atmosphere of suspicion and distrust between committees like poor peasants, Dalits, untouchables, and Muslims. Alienated from Congress, large section of Muslims could not respond to the call for a united struggle. Many Muslim leaders and intellectuals expressed their concern over the status of Muslim as a minority within India. They feared the culture and the identity of the minorities would be submerged under the domination of Hindu majority. So this is civil disobedience movement, which communities and group participated in it, which group alienated or were not interested. These things we have discussed. Then in the next video we will discuss collective identities and symbols of nationalism. Thank you.